little stand closer to the door people come in. Okay. Good morning. Welcome to the Treasure Coast Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Stuart, Florida. Today is January 7th, 2024. I'm Pat Burt, and I am your worship associate today. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome people of all gender identities, ethnicities, ages, and backgrounds. We are also on YouTube. To be put on our email list or to find out more information about us, go to our website at tcuuc.org. Note the email link to request our online Friday newsletter. Now is a good time, if you haven't done it already, to silence your cell phones. I know we have a few visitors and a few returnees.
Not to be confused with internees.
Yeah, not to be confused with internees. Who's visiting with us today? Oh, if you have the gumption, would you come up to this mic and introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and where you're from, maybe how you found us.
Hello, my name is Susan Lara, and I'm from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania.
Yoo-hoo!
My husband, good.
Middletown.
And Mechanicsburg, that's
Yeah,
where I'm from.
I'm
and
from
we're
Middletown.
staying in Nettles Island. We'll be here for a month, and we go to the Unitarian Church of the Cumberland Valley in Boiling Springs, PA. And I'm here with my husband, Max.
Welcome. Woo-hoo-hoo. She's from the West Shore. I'm from the East Shore. Susquehanna, that is. Anyone else? Oh, good.
I'm Floyd Sainer from Goshen, Indiana. I come down here every January. I've been here before. From Indiana, but I was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Well,
And
isn't everyone? I am.
I know, and all my relatives are in Juniata County.
Welcome. Anyone else? If you're not up for coming up to the mic, you could at least just kind of go like this so we can target you after the service. Didn't say that. Please see the printed order of service for or our Friday newsletter for announcements. The only additional announcement I've been asked to make is for those kind souls who donated the poinsettias at the beginning of the holidays. Would you please get them out of here now? No, that's not how it was said. Big thanks to those who did that. A big thanks also to those who are helping with today's service. Jackie Robbins, our favorite cellist, also our only our greeters and ushers, our host, Corina Poloni, our tech support, Rachel Valentino, and the kitchen helpers, all important providers of the coffee and goodies that are waiting for us after the service. That would be Marguerite Gregory and Joanne Leone. And here is our prelude. I didn't forget this. Thank you, Jack. Our chalice is going to be lit. Yes, we have. While I recite words by, excuse me, Albert Schweitzer from the back of the hymnal. At times, our own light goes out and rekindles by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. Happy New Year. Oh, really? Happy? Well, New Year for sure, but the happy part is up to us, individually and collectively, in all our diversity, different ages, ethnicities, gender identities, and our various spiritualities, that whole stew of ingredients that make us use. Our personal lives and our life as a congregation are to a large part what we make of it. Let's make that old phrase, Happy New Year, more realistic and more meaningful. Let's turn to each other and say with meaning, Good New Year. Good New Year. Good New Year. Thank you. Now, for our first hymn, please stand if you're willing or able for number 18, 3 verses. What wondrous love.
Will you be singing?
Huh?
Will you be singing?
Will I be singing? I'm not sure.
Bob, I hope you sing. Someone give me a tempo you'd like.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul.
Gotta hear the words.
Okay. Love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this, oh my soul. What love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. When I was sinking down, when I was sinking down, To all friends, I will sing. To love and to all friends, I will sing. To love and to who pain and sorrow mend with their sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end, I will sing.
This is why you asked for a piano player 2.5 years. Sorry, that was the Jew-boo-you mistake. I have a second page.
Now it's time for our affirmation. Let us recite speaking the first verse and singing the second. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. All that dwell below the skies, let faith and hope and love arise. Let
Okay, the responsive reading is number 719. Those Who Live Again by George Eliot, who was born as Mary Ann Evans. That's a big issue today, you know, about the name you were born with, but it doesn't apply here. We'll read this responsively. I just thought it was beautiful. Those Who Live Again. Oh, may I join the choir invisible of those immortal dead who live again in minds made better by their presence. Lives served so generously, in deeds of daring rectitude, in scorn of miserable aims that end with self. In thoughts sublime that pierce the night like stars and with their mild persistence urge our search to vaster issues. So to live is heaven, to make undying music in the world, breathing a beauteous order that controls with growing sway the growing life of humanity. That better self shall live till human time folds its eyelids, and the human sky be gathered like a scroll within the tomb. This is life to come, which martyred souls have made more glorious for us who strive to follow. May I reach that purest heaven, be to other souls the cup of strength in some great agony, and kindle generous ardor, feed pure love, beget the smiles that have no cruelty. Be the sweet presence of a good diffused, and in diffusion, ever more intense. So shall I join the choir invisible, whose music is the gladness of the world. And now we have our time of joys and sorrows. We invite you to share yours in the hope that you know you are being heard and supported. We ask that they be brief and personal. Come to the mic if you can, or from your seat, but better to be heard by everyone and by YouTube watchers from the mic. Who has something?
I just want to say I just received a text from Pam, our dear Pam, who a week or two ago had a scary visit to hospital for RSV. She this week got the shot for it, as well as the shingles shot, and she's feeling dumpy, but she's well. And thanks everybody for their support.
Hi, I'm Jackie Robbins, and I have many joys and many sorrows in my life. But this week, I had a joy when I got to spend some time with my dear friend Terry Barber, who came to town and made sure that we got to visit. He's a person who founded Artists for a Cause locally. And yesterday I found out that two of my good friends both passed away, who were musicians, and I'm sad about that.
I'm Janet Grote, and last week we had to put down our 10-year-old dog, which cancer came on very suddenly, and we really had trouble getting any diagnosis, but he had to go. So that was a real sorrow. The joy is that we immediately went to the Humane Society and found a 23-pound, loving, fun little girl. So it's definitely a joy and sorrow. And while I'm on the subject, I want to call out Jackie Buckley, and Joe Giaconero's not here, but I know at least those two volunteer at the Humane Society.
Hi, I'm Tia Breeding. I'm the sister of Judith Watt, who is not here today, and her partner neither, because, and I'm wearing this at her request, they both have COVID. Judith says it's the sickest she's ever been in her whole life. So we've been running errands for them and getting them stuff, and our other sister in Albuquerque got actually a medical visit to come in and do fluids and check to make sure that they were okay. So that's the sorrow part, but the joy is that this morning she said her head is clear. She feels like a person again, so it's happening. And this is specifically at her request, and for me to tell you all, you should all be careful too.
I trust they're watching, so we wish them well and weller soon. Anyone else?
I just have a few joys to share. So this new year is starting off really interestingly for me. I celebrated the new year at a farm. I didn't make it all the way to midnight, but I was welcomed in by cows, goats, pot-bellied pigs. So it was a bit of a different experience, but I really enjoyed it. And then the other joy I wanted to share is that Rachel and I finally have combined households. She is no longer living in her RV, and we rented a house that we're going to share together.
Good. Is there anyone else? Then we move a stone for those that we haven't mentioned but have on our minds and hearts. And this reading is by Ralph Helverson in the back of the hymnal, entitled Impassioned Clay. Deep in ourselves resides the religious impulse. Out of the passions of our clay, it rises. We have religion when we stop deluding ourselves that we are self-sufficient, self-sustaining, or self-derived. We have religion when we hold some hope beyond the present, some self-respect beyond our failures. We have religion when our hearts are capable of leaping up at beauty, when our nerves are edged by some dream in the heart. We have religion when we have an abiding gratitude for all that we have received. We have religion when we look upon people with all their failings and still find in them good. When we look beyond people to the grandeur in nature and to the purpose in our own heart. We have religion when we have done all that we can, and then in confidence entrust ourselves to the life that is larger than ourselves. Ralph Helverson. And now moments of silence. Spirit of Life is hymn number 123. We remain seated, we hum it once, and then we sing it once. Are we done? Okay. You know, some ministers are normal, but some have a lot of weird obsessions and preoccupations. Not the kind that make the headlines, but the kind that keep one awake at night, thinking about things like, where will we be? Will we be here? TCUUC, I mean, 10 years from now. I hope you don't lie awake thinking about things like that, because I do that enough for all of us. But every week, it seems to me, you have an opportunity to say, yes, we will, and to help us in that direction. So guess what time it is now? Yes, time for your generosity to help us in that direction. I've got a couple ushers here, I think. Okay. Doesn't your license plate say Bach?
It says, back off.
Oh. You know, this is clearly an aside, but Jackie often plays with a guy named Jack at Santos on Thursday. You know, they play music together there. And I'm not really promoting Santos, but I'm just saying that I happened to be there this week and he was there. And I said, "Are you expecting Jackie?" And he said, "Well, she's often last minute." So you have a reputation.
I've been on stage.
And we both agreed we love her.
I will not be there this Thursday. I'll be at the Blake Library. Yeah, we're not supposed to self-promote it because it's going to be like a standing room line. But it is Beatles reimagined. And
I'll say again, are we done?
so I won't be at Santos. That's my point.
Okay, I've kind of given you an idea that my sermon tonight is inspired, today is inspired by some fear and trembling about our future. You've heard me say before that sermons come from a recipe of 3 ingredients: inspiration, perspiration, and desperation. When you hired me for the second time in April 2020 to begin that July, most of the board members told me they wanted me to have as one focus spirituality. You well remember that time was the height, or moving into the height, of the COVID death watch, that dreaded TV daily tallying. Spirituality means different things to all of us. So I took your guidance to mean if we ever needed inner resourcing, we surely needed it then. and we need it now. We still have COVID, and we have another virus, polarization. So in 2024, the country will either come together or come apart. CVS doesn't have a shot for that yet. So we still have to find our strength within and together. Community, strength together, we need more than ever. I would say the other great tradition of UU is activism. You don't have to talk UUs into the front lines of social change, because Unitarians have always found their way there. You know, New England, before the American Revolution of 1776, was colonized by religious refugees from England, Pilgrims and Puritans. You know the story. No sooner did they set up their government for the colonies than they began to define religious freedom as mainly for them. And soon there were the likes of Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson who became refugees from the refugees. Now, that's almost a universal truth and trauma of religions worldwide. Once religion gets political power, a firm grip on a government and a land, their own country, people get corralled in and the out people always get diminished. So Unitarians from the beginning have fought for separation of church and state, abolition of slavery, civil rights, of course, including voting rights. One of our hero martyr hate victims is Reverend James Reeb, like the 3 Jewish voting rights workers victims in the movie Mississippi Burning, activists from the North who bust to the South to encourage black people to vote. The Unitarian minister, James Reeb, now a martyr. So my sermons usually hope to come from what I have found or am hoping to find and wanting to share in those 2 areas, spirituality and activism. But not today. Today, I have to look to the future and hope for the future. You might say it's a hope and a prayer driven by that third recipe ingredient, desperation. First, some anecdotal inspirations. If you can call people telling you what you better get to work on, if you can call that inspiring. If you were here at the 10:30 service on Christmas Eve, the morning service that day, 2 weeks ago, you remember a woman visiting introduced herself as Linnea. Linnea and her late former significant other, Richard, were quite active among us about 10 or so years ago. We got to know them because they signed up for that UU program, Building Your Own Theology. Gail Deaver got us into that and hosted us at hers, and Irv's Circle Bay condo. So at the coffee time after the 10:30 service 2 weeks ago, I was catching up with Linnea, and she told me she had walked here from Circle Bay, where she's visiting a friend. So I gave her a ride back, and she starts by saying, "Bob, I looked over your congregation. You've got to do something." She goes on, "My parents were proud UUs from their 50s on. This congregation has to go on. It's an important presence in Stewart." Well, I dropped her off before she told me what I had to do. Second anecdote inspiration. Somebody who told me she was going to be here today, but I don't see her. Somebody here a decade ago told me something along this line. In case she'd rather be anonymous, I'll just call her Phyllis Anonymous. And I'll be sure to tell her that I meant her to be here today. She told me she would. It was in the other building when we only had the other building, and there was no discussion going on about adding this building because we were a small, struggling congregation then. So she said to me, with feeling, if you don't lead us to build a sanctuary here, we will in all likelihood go under. You're the minister, and that's what a minister with vision did in Vero. And look how that UU church has grown. Now, I don't want you all bothering to go up there and look. I didn't think we had enough people, even though we all knew that the original plans for that building, which with the land, all this land, was gifted to us by Gene Heston. The original architectural plans included a second and third building. So somebody 2 or 3 decades ago had the vision, but it still seemed to me like we were too small and struggling. So I thanked Phyllis and proceeded to contemplate my second retirement. Final anecdotal inspiration. Soon after that exchange, I learned that one of our ailing faithful, David Craig, was in serious straits in Martin Memorial. So I hurry there and find him wanting to talk. I assumed we would talk about his mortality. No, he wanted to talk about our mortality, UU's and Stewart. I tried to cut it short. I didn't want to tire him. He wasn't getting tired. He was getting started. He told me, unless you started out with UU parents, and very few of us here, how many here started out with UU parents? Yeah, very few of us. He said, most of us discovered UU in the second half of life, of our lives. Because we discovered we wanted a religion that didn't judge people, that was more concerned about building up and embracing rather than putting down and excluding. So he said, of course we want to offer ministry to children and to families with children, but our main emphasis has to be reaching people more into affirmation and welcome than put down, which too many mainline religions are still known for. Incidentally, he also said to me, Bob, you don't need to attend church meetings. Your time is important. I didn't take that advice, but I've often remembered him sharing that. He got stronger, at least temporarily strong enough to go to work on his vision and get the original architect of that structure to draw up this attached sanctuary. He and Shirley and another couple, the Hendersons, put together $600,000 to pay for this sanctuary. He needed more and asked me if I could think of anybody who could add to that. He would call them. Yes, I could. Certainly my vision whisperer, Phyllis Anonymous. I told him, you have to hurry. They're getting ready to go back to their north home in Connecticut. The church had to vote to accept this gift, and we did. And I took that word to his infirmary bedside and told him because of him, we would have this. He died that night. his family there told me he had waited to hear. We're going to be exploring very intentionally all we can think to do to be sure we are here 10 years from now and in the decades to come. Everyone here will have time and opportunity for input. We owe that to Jean Heston and to David Craig et al. I've told you of others like Martha Mickelson, who called me to the hospital bed in their home. I opened with, "What do you want to talk about?" She wanted to talk about our going on after her leaving. She really loved that place, and that was the first building. I need a drink. If I were to share panic, hair on fire moments, desperation, which of course I'm far too reasonable to do, but if I lost it or gained it in that direction for a couple moments, what would I tell you? We can't lose here. We can't lose here. We need this place that encourages you to believe without telling you what to believe, what you have to believe. Encourages you to believe without telling you what you have to believe. That ends it for a lot of people, probably most people, because traditionally, church is where you go to get told what you have to believe. If the afterlife is what you think religion is about, we don't say what you should believe about that. People believe about that what they find comforting. I think most of us believe in questioning matters of faith. I believe questioning makes us stronger. But most of us come from religious traditions that don't think that, that didn't think that. Most of us came from religious traditions that had an unspoken and unwritten assumption. Question at your own risk. You've heard me say before, I think we should hang up a sign to the street that says, "Bring us your answers and we will help you question them." Would that sign last as long as our Black Lives Matter sign banner lasted? We do believe in love here, love. Love the noun and love the verb. And UU has a lasting banner that says, "Standing on the side of love." That doesn't just mean the people we love naturally, you know, family, most of them, neighbors, some of them, friends are our lifeblood, our lifeline. Standing on the side of love, I think, emphasizes people whom society and religions, major religions, have marginalized, sidelined, closeted. I think if we're open-minded, and open-minded is a journey, and I think the best we can say is we want to be, we try to be, and I think one of the reasons we gather here is to try to help each other on that journey to open-mindedness. Okay, if we are trying to be open-minded, we learn troubling things. This past week, Paul Krugman, the New York Times op-ed economy columnist, Pulitzer Prize winner, wrote that slavery in America was primarily rooted not in racism, but in greed, cheap labor, greed. Racism was certainly part of it, but not the main driver. And he mentioned that free black people in the North were kidnapped and abducted and taken south and sold into slavery. Now that hit me. And I saw the movie 12 Years a Slave, which I believe was about just that. What we learn about America's original sin is pretty troubling. And what we do or don't do about it, the housing industry, policing, the prison business, horrifying. And there's our second original sin. This land of the free, which was not free or for sale. I mentioned my dismay at reading recently that the government of Denmark was sterilizing the native people of the territory of the Dane territory, Greenland. The native people there are known as Greenlanders. Sterilizing the natives as late as 1970. That's in the lifetime of most of us here, 1970. Someone here just said to me recently, our government was doing that to our native populations almost as recently. That's called ethnic cleansing or genocide. Of course, standing on the side of love for UUs means majorly gay and lesbian and trans folk are as lovable, as human as anybody. And why in 2024 do we have to keep saying that? Because America, in many places, still is learning and resisting learning that there is more than one sexual norm and more than two clear gender identities. I've said before, I know we have a lot of therapists here, so I'm sure some of you could say that better, but you get what I'm saying. And nobody who insists on identifying themselves or pronouncing themselves differently diminishes anybody else, unless anybody else is so insecure that they'd rather let people who are different and should be proud of who they are just suppress it, hide it, and suffer. Well, if I'm that anybody, then my discomfort trumps your mental health and self-confidence and pride in who you are. That's pathetic. I hate to have to look for signs of progress, but you know I often do. It's not in the religions where we might have hoped and might have expected. That recent declaration by the Pope, remember the Pope who introduced himself as, "Who am I to judge?" That recent declaration that gay couples get a blessing, hailed as a breakthrough. That wasn't exactly evening the definition of humanity. For God's sake, our pets get a blessing. And some sermon, I will have to delve into the heartbreak for many and for me, called the United Methodist Church. How many of here, for at least some period of time in your lives, found yourselves in the United Methodist Church? Yeah, I've always been told by folks that that was one of their steps along the way. You know this probably, but it is now two denominations, with the 25% who left over gay marriage and gay ordination calling themselves the Global Methodist Church. Global because many millions new Methodists are coming from Africa and Asia, where gay people can be branded for exile or execution, 2024. Now, Pat, I heard recently say, those missionaries to Africa sure did their job. Yeah, right. No, the hope is not in religion so much as in young people. Youth and young adults seem to get today that there isn't one norm for sexuality and everybody else is just abnorm. Our grands seem to get that better than their grands. We just have to keep on helping each other find what we need here. That's a well we all have inside. So you go, I go, you probably get all those messages from CVS telling you there are shots waiting that you didn't know you needed. We got an awful lot of them. So we go to a lot of places for a wellness checkup. I hope this place is that and remains that, a place where we help each other on our journey to wellness, wholeness. That other denomination I just mentioned used to start small gatherings historically, meetings, start their meetings with, brother, sister, how is it with your soul? That's what religion was supposed to do, is supposed to do for us, contribute to our mental wellness. And here we have to go on drawing the circle wide. That's a popular UU hymn, draw the circle wide, including, not excluding. Stewart and Port St. Lucie, Martin and St. Lucie counties need us UUs, to lift up the God's honest truth. Diversity of color, of gender, of ethnic origin, of faith backgrounds is to be celebrated, not feared. Yes, I've got to do something, and I want to do something, and we all have to figure out what the something is and how to do it together better. Now, last week, I forget why, but I mentioned to you that I've been hearing from people on TV, columnists, op-ed type people, that they go to nature to find strength. They look at flowers, birds, fish, and they find strength within. So the last hymn tells you that sheep and cows have something on us. They know how to stare. So as we sing this, 94, is it? Let's think about the trips we take to nature, and let's think about doing that more and staring more for strength. Hymn number 94, 3 verses. Now, do you need me over your head?
Yes. It's nice to have vibrations coming from behind. You know, it's good vibes. That's okay.
What is this life?
And you can help me with the tempo. Let's see it. I'm going to do a little intro.
What is this life full of care? We have no time to stand and stare, no time to stand beneath the boughs and stare as long as sheep and clouds. No time to see when woods we pass, where squirrels hide their nuts in grass. No time to see in broad daylight, streams full of stars like stars at night. No time to turn to beauty's glance and watch her feet, how they can dance. A poor life this, if full of care. We have no time to stand and stare.
Please be seated. John, you have a message now for your beloved, right? We need her back here. Together we would do this. She needs a partner better than never. Never mind. Now, for the closing words, I go often to this mission statement by William Scholes. Do I have that right? William Scholes was the former, what was he, Janet? Former of the UUA, president of Amnesty International. Okay, thank you for waiting. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole world in our hands. William F. Scholes. What was that?